Is it just me, or was the art style or the animation of this episode of Space Dandy just abysmal and terrible? Was it just me? Because this entire episode, it seemed like the animation quality was completely off compared to these past two episodes. Yes, I know Space Dandy tends to have different art styles in different episodes, but I personally don't believe it was exactly that in this episode. The animation, literally the animation of the fluid frames per second, just felt way too slow, and it felt really rigid, and the lines broke all the time on the characters. It looked really freaking weird in this episode. Like, the entire scene with the water, when you saw Dandy surfing in the water with that boat or the ship to go up to the other planet, the entire scene, it looked like Dandy's entire body was deforming with the animation. I'm like, what the hell am I watching? It just looked really weird. I don't know if it was actually purposely intended to have that type of art style or animation in this episode, but it looked really bad compared to the past two episodes we've had. Now, besides the animation, this episode, fairly simple. It's a really simple episode. It pretty much starts off with Meow being hungry, doesn't have no food, and at the same time, Dandy has wasted all their money, and he has no money to get food. And we find out that Dandy wasted his money on this, like, teleporter device that will instantly teleport someone if you shine the light on top of them. Now, the funny thing is how Dandy gets teleported. You see his head just floating in nothing, and you see the ground starting to move underneath him. It looks really freaking weird, and I like the way it looked. It was really artistic, the way it was shown, and that's why it makes me believe that maybe the animation of this episode was meant to be like that because of artistic value. Because a lot of the different scenes in this episode looked really cool, especially some backgrounds, like the background scene when you see the fish sitting inside of his, like, building, like his little fort or hut or something underneath the ground. It looked really cool, and I like the design of it. It looked really artistic-wise, but I feel like, you know, just, there's some things that really were obvious that either they were trying to save budget, but at the same time, they were really just trying to, I guess, make it really different from the other episodes of Dandy. Now, I do like the fish. The fish is really interesting, and it's funny how he ended up becoming the dinner of Meow at the very end of the episode. It looked really freaking amazing. Like, for instance, when he was a grilled fish, and you got to see that still frame shot of the grilled fish, that was probably one of the best freaking scenes in the entire episode when it comes into terms of animation-wise, because it looks so badass, and I feel like the budget of this episode went into that scene. But I loved the episode. It was a good episode. It didn't have the best comedy. For instance, the comedy wasn't as good as the other two episodes I've seen. Now, as I always say, comedy is subjective, so really everybody has a different taste in comedy. So, for instance, if I don't find this episode funny, it doesn't mean that nobody else will find it funny. Everybody has their own taste of comedy, and they accept it differently. But this episode, I feel it was very simple and good. It was refreshing. I just hope that this was a sign of just them trying a different art style instead of animation budget, because if it was, I'm kind of worried for future episodes of Space Dandy, since this is only episode 3 of Space Dandy Season 2. So, I like it overall. It was a good episode. I enjoy the different events that happened in this episode, especially at the end when you get to see the entire people of the Fish Dude's people, and you find out that, like, oh, we completely broke up with science and all that. We're here, and it looks like they're a part of war now. You have a dude smoking a fucking cigar, and I was laughing my ass off when you saw that fish just, you know, smoking a cigar, acting like a badass, and at the same time, nobody's believing this fish guy. But it kind of reminded me a little bit of Bardock. For instance, if anyone remembers Bardock, the father of Goku, that's what the entire scene kind of reminded me of, since you had this fish trying to let everybody know the planet's about to burn, get out of here, we need to get out of here now, but nobody was believing him. It kind of reminded me of Bardock when he was trying to warn everybody that, you know, Frieza was going to blow up the planet. So I like that a lot. It just reminded me a lot of that. I know it probably didn't mean to be directed towards that, but it just kind of gave me those type of feels. Tell me your thoughts on this episode, everybody. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What's your favorite moments about this episode? And personally, from your standpoint, do you feel like the art style of this episode was intentional, or do you feel like it was because of budget concerns, or do you feel like they were just lacking in budget for this specific episode? Please let me know in the comments below on that. Everybody, tell me your favorite moment of this episode. For instance, what was your favorite moment when it comes to terms of comedy? I'm curious to see what you all found funny in this episode. I love all of you so much. You have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.